name is Brendan Smith. I am the Brewing Sailor, and this is another Hangover free review. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Hangover Free Reviews, sponsored by Rationale Brewing. I'm your host, the Brewing Sailor, Brendan Smith. And whether you're living a sober lifestyle or just looking to cut back on your drinking, you've come to the right place, because this is the show that helps you moderate your booze, not your brews. Just how do we do that? I'm very glad you asked. Each week, we look at a couple of NA beers and we score them against the style guidelines appropriate to that beer as prescribed by the Beer Judge Certification Program. If you're interested in reading more about those style guidelines, the link to the style we use will be in the description of each video. After that, I'll take my judge's hat off and let you know how I personally feel about the beer, what I like or don't like, and how often I would pay for the beer or not at all. On today's show, we're talking about a new Mexican lager to the NA game, one I know the community is very excited about. We're going to be talking about Equis Zero with salt and lime. So let's get into it, shall we? Handy dandy glass. Try not to spill the beer on the keyboard. That would be a good thing, huh? All right, and for those who remember or those who don't remember, the BJCP scoring system is a 50-point system broken down into 5 categories. We look at appearance, which you can earn 3 points. Aroma, which you can earn 12 points. Flavor, which is the big one, you can earn 20 points. Mouthfeel, how the beer feels on your tongue, you can earn 5 points for that. And then finally, our overall impression of the beer, which you can earn 10 points for. So let's take a look at the appearance first. As you'd expect from a Mexican lager, this has brilliant clarity to it. A nice light golden color. Not so light that it's straw. It's more on the golden side, but it is a lighter golden. And the head will dissipate once we actually take a sip, but it's doing pretty well. It's fairly persistent for this style, which isn't bad. So that's going to earn 3 points out of 3 for me for appearance. And let's move on to aroma and see how it smells. So with this beer, which you're going to have lime and salt in, obviously that's going to dominate the flavor. Every time you're injecting that much fruit or any other adjunct into it, that's probably going to have a big impact on the aroma, and it does here. So we get a lot of lime, a little bit of salt. Underneath it, though, I'm still getting a bit of the normal beer, a little bit of that, international pale style lager that we're using, which is going to be BJCP Style 2A, I believe. I'll have to double check it because for some reason I didn't put it on my notes for this episode. Live and learn. But, similar styles, or excuse me, tongue just got twisted there. Similar examples of the styles. Obviously, the regular Dos Equis, Modelo, Pacifico, even from Japan, Asahi, from Thailand, Tsingtao, similar type beers. So, a lot of lime, a little bit of salt, but still getting a little bit of that grainy sweetness from the beer that you would expect, a little bit of that corn sweetness that you expect from a Mexican style version of it. So a very pleasant aroma. I'd probably like a little less lime, but not unpleasant. Still, I'll give it an 8.5 out of 12. And I mentioned I am going to be using fractional points going forward just to put some variation in the scores so we don't have log jams at the end of the year when I kind of go back and do my rankings of which beers scored the best. So 8.5 out of 12. Now, let's jump into the flavor. So it's very clean fermentation. Oh God, what is it with my tongue today? I'm sorry, folks. I'm just tongue twisted all over the place, but it's a very clean fermentation profile. There's no yeast esters here. There's no phenols. It's just going to be very little on the hop presence as well. And any hop presence that is there is probably going to be masked by the lime and salt. So this is strictly about the grain and then the lime and the salt. And again, while I find the lime and the salt to be very pleasant, I would like them to dial it back just a notch. It's not so overpowering that you can't taste the beer. The graininess is there. The corn sweetness is there. I just think it's slightly out of balance. And that's going to, I think, prevent it in the long run from getting a really excellent score. It's still good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to knock it here. I'm just trying to put my critic's hat on and look at the beer as how it should be versus what it is. So I still think it's going to get a good score, just not an overly great score. We're going to give it 14.75 out of 20. Like I said, I like it. I just think if we dialed back the lime and the salt just a touch, I think it would be better. Not even a whole lot either. Maybe 15, 20%. So 80% of whatever they put in there, 85% of whatever they put in there. That I think would be the sweet spot. It's very similar to a beer I made at Craft and Growler or Four Elements Brewing. They've long story short here, when we created the brewing company at Craft and Growler, the owner at the time wanted to differentiate the brewery from the brand. The new owners, I didn't agree with that decision at the time. C'est la vie. The new owners, they do want to keep this brand the same, so it's back to Craft and Growler. Anyway, at Craft and Growler, I brewed a beer called Hangover de los Chivos, which I've talked about a few times on the channel. It's a Mexican style lager. It's very similar to this, except it's a little darker golden color, and it doesn't have lime in it. A lot of my drinkers like putting either the lime in or tahini in it themselves, and so we opted not to put the lime into the boil, just the salt. And I had a little less salt, I think, per barrel than they do. It's, like I said, not a lot, just a little bit. But we're going to give this 14.75 out of 20. For mouthfeel, it's spot on. It's a medium light body, medium high carbonation, very effervescent on the tongue. It's just what you want from a lighter lager, not necessarily a light lager, but a lighter colored, lighter, easier drinking lager. Perfect for the summertime. 5 out of 5 on mouthfeel. They nailed that. This is the first, as far as overall impression, I think it's a really good first dive into the NA world for Dos Equis, and it does slightly edge out Corona for my favorite macro NA thus far, or my best scoring macro NA thus far. We're going to give it a 7 out of 10 on overall impression. I'd be very interested to see Dos Equis do a NA version of the Dos Equis Amber and see how that compares to Athletics Cerveza Atletica. That would be a very fun comparison, I think. Total score for this beer is going to be 38.25 out of 50, so 38.25 out of 50 if you're scoring along at home. And not an excellent score, like we said. It doesn't get that 40, doesn't quite get there, but a very good score. And I think a very good beer. For its market, it's going to do very well. This is a great summertime beer. It's very refreshing. And I think Dos Equis is probably very happy with it, and I think their sales numbers will do well. As we've talked about many times, I am sponsored by Rationale Brewing. Just wanted to give them a shout out here. Go over to rationale.com right now. Check out their 4 beers: the Citrus Hazy IPA, the New England Hazy IPA, the West Coast IPA, which is my personal favorite and everyone's favorite beach day beer, and the style we're talking about right now, the Mexican style lager. If this is your first order, you'll get 15% off. So after the show, head on over to rationalebrewing.com and pick up some great beer and let them know the Brewing Sailor sent you. All right, so on to my personal observations. As I talked about, I got hooked on Mexican lagers when I had to brew Hangover de los Chivos for the Hangover riders and the Los Chivos bike riders. I really enjoyed the whole process of the collaborative process of coming up with that beer for those groups, working with them on that, finding out what they liked about beer, what they didn't like, putting that into. And I just got hooked on the whole process, and the beer became a favorite of mine. It was my everyday drinker. So to have something similar to that, also in the Corona too. The Corona is very similar, although it doesn't have the salt and lime in it. But that same kind of core base beer. It's really nice to have now that it's in the NA world, along with, of course, Rationale's Mexican Lager. A few others are doing them too. I love that those options are out there. I love that I can go to my local Target and get this for $9.99 a six pack. I heard some other people talking; they saw it for $11.99 or $12.99 a six pack. That's a touch much. I probably wouldn't pick it up on a regular basis for that much either. But at $9.99 at my local Target, yeah, that's pretty good. I because of that, where does it fall on my scale of at the lowest drain pour, I'm okay never having it again. Would drink again given limited options. Would buy again regularly, or regular rotation beer. I gotta tell you, for 8 months out of the year in Texas, this is probably going to be a regular rotation beer. This will probably be in the fridge quite a bit, just because it is good, it is refreshing, it's light, it's crisp in that summer heat, and I can get it just about anywhere, and I can get it very reasonably priced. So, for those reasons, this is a very solid beer in my opinion. I like it a lot. I'm sure a lot of people in the community are going to like it as well. If there is probably a knock on it, is there probably is slightly too much lime and salt. But that's one I think I'm willing to live with. I hope they can dial back that in the future, or if somebody else comes out with a similar product and beats them at their own game, because hey, competition drives the market, and it's a beautiful thing. So, if you're interested in buying the beer we reviewed today, normally I would have a link in the description to where you can buy it, but since it's Dos Equis and you can get it anywhere, go to your store. So there you go. That's all I've got for today's review, folks. If you like what you heard today, please go ahead and hit that like button. Turn that hit the notification button. Turn that red button gray. Hit the bell. Let YouTube know you want to see my videos when I drop new reviews. And share this video out across all your social medias. And of course, leave a comment before you go. Am I doing a good job? Am I doing a bad job? Did I miss something? Have you tried this beer before? And if so, what did you think about it? Is there a beer you want me to review, beer that you love, or a beer that you hate, and you really want to get my critical take on it? If so, feel free to leave that message in the comments, or shoot me a message across any one of my social media accounts. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here Friday when we go back to 1820 in Maine when we review their Wavefinder IPA. Next week, we're going to be looking at a beer from Well-Being and a beer from Best Day Brewing out in California. Until then, thanks very much for watching Hangover Free Reviews. I've been your host, the Brewing Sailor, Brendan Smith. Sláinte, y'all.